All right, happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday.
We are here to dig into decision support systems and the importance of situation or situational awareness and how critical that is to, especially to decision support systems that incorporate AI.
Yes.
As we think about organizations moving to implementing AI and these complex systems that are used to analyze large amounts of data. Most importantly, DSS or decision support systems are used to make better decisions and to plan decision strategies and that sort of thing. Inventory management systems
Yes.
use this technology, clinical diagnosis systems, and one that we all are familiar with, GPS systems.
Yep. Yes.
So I want to start off by talking about situation awareness. This is a term that we were introduced to 20, almost 25 years ago.
A while back, huh? Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a while. And I always associate situation awareness with Micah Ensley. She was the pioneer around coining the term. You want to share your perspective on the definition of situation awareness?
Sure. It's the ability to understand what's going on around you. Both predictive ability, go back to systems thinking, not only what's going on around you, how those things are related that lead to an outcome or lead to, just being awareness of whatever the system may be. That's the simplest way of explaining it is, do you know what's going on? And do you understand why it's going on? In especially those complex systems where you can start making decisions or,
Mhm.
one thing when you were talking about the decision support systems, a lot of that's all around automation today, right?
That's
So
right. That's right.
situational awareness becomes even more critical because even these AI driven automated systems, oopsies are going to happen that requires in that system is that human. So, do they have that situation? No awareness of what's going on around them. So,
Hmm. I think to add to that, it's also thinking about your understanding of all the interrelated aspects of that system. Most importantly, so that you can project what's going to happen, so you can avoid making a mistake, hurting yourself, injuring someone, that sort of thing. So when we think about self-driving vehicles, it's that ability to understand where do I need to intervene and how do I course correct when the vehicle's going off the rails in terms of what action it's taking next. So it's that perception, like you said, of the environment and the system, how those things relate, and then the projection of what's going to happen next. So you know when to jump in.
yes, so you have to perceive it. Then
Hmm.
you have to have some kind of comprehension, right? Going back to what you said, you perceive whatever issue,
Hmm.
and then you need to look at all those components and relationships of things in the system, comprehend what's going on, and
Hmm.
then project, make a decision or project a future state of something.
Hmm.
Yep.
Exactly. And, I think for me, it's always been an area of research that I've been interested in. But for me, as we look at where we are today and these decision support systems that are incorporating AI, your users or the humans that are involved have to understand the system's functionality. Now, I don't mean that they have to understand every nuance of the machine learning algorithm and that sort of thing, but they have to understand the functionality. What is this algorithm or what is the AI influencing, controlling? What are the limitations? So sometimes you have to kind of reveal your flaws or what doesn't necessarily work in the way that people expect so that you can make better decisions. You can ensure that you, as the human operator or observer, has the ability to kind of understand what's going on. I mean, you think about autopilot in an airplane. even though the pilots are on autopilot, they still have to be ready
Yes.
for
Because when that beeper starts going off, when those lights start flashing, and you need to figure out, possibly that's not where 3 Mile Island, okay, that's the
yes.
classic example of, well, one, just having these systems in place, overwhelming with the interfaces, or not thinking about the human in that loop, so that they can troubleshoot downstream, right? So if that's not transparent, if they don't have that situational awareness,
Right.
they're not going to be able to make the appropriate decisions. And in some cases, like 3 Mile Island, it was catastrophic, right? At that time, the worst, nuclear power plant meltdown in the history of the world. Later, but at that time. So, I mean, it's really important, let alone even basic systems, if you don't have that awareness and you don't have that transparency in a consumable way for users.
Right.
They can also, it can make them not trust the system. It can make them make poor decisions, or, best case, just get really frustrated and not want to leverage the system.
Yes, and the really important component of letting your humans in the loop understand what's going on is also giving them a sense of agency,
Yes.
or a feeling that or a reassurance, I should say, that they have some level of control over the system.
Yep. And confidence, right?
And confidence, yeah, it's that self-efficacy. If we were to use the scientific term, that I, as the person interacting with this system, have the ability to intervene when necessary, and not that once things go off the rails, that I just have to let things kind of go and fall as they may. It's kind of like when you're driving and you run over the rumble strip on the shoulder, and you overcorrect because you're off the rails. But we want to create systems where individuals don't have to feel like they have to overcompensate to course correct, that they know when and how to course correct, and they can do that in a way that's seamless.
Right. And they've got the information, going back to that downstream. I think one of the biggest, I don't want to call it dangers, but one of the biggest risks with these AI driven systems is that there is a sometimes over reliance. That's also an issue. And just again, they're out of the loop. So you're kind of sitting back. And part of that is because we don't sometimes think, we're so driven by the technology aspect of it. And it's going to just change the world, and it will, it is changing the world. But in the process, we end up forgetting about the human agent in it all. Going back to the systems thinking paradigm. You have the technology component that has a situation awareness itself, right? It's using something to drive its awareness, its decisions. But don't forget, there's a human. It's rare, maybe one day we'll have Terminator style robots that really can, take over everything. But there's going to be a human in that loop.
Right.
And that needs to be considered when you're designing out, when you're thinking about requirements for that system. Where does that human need to have a shared situation awareness with the system, so that upstream, if a decision has to be made, or back to 3 Mile Island, something goes wrong, that requires someone to figure out those working parts, how it happened. You've got to consider that in the design of the entire system, and not just reliability of data and the algorithms. Of course, that's critical, but how do you keep that human aware of what's going on throughout the process.
Yeah. And excuse me, I think it was maybe last week or a few weeks ago, we talked about mental models. And in line with what you're saying, you've got to make sure that you as the system creator, have to think about that user's mental model development. And so that means you have to provide some level of information around what the system is thinking
Yep.
or doing at different stages of use. There's a really delicate balance in terms of what you present, because I personally cannot develop a mental model for a system that requires me to understand a lot of technical situation that or information that I'm not familiar with. But
Or an enormous amount of data, right? Or
correct.
yep.
And as you think about that, you have to understand what is that mental model of that human in the loop already, and how do you present information around the system's actions and processing and all that sort of thing. But in you present that in a way that that particular type of user can understand it. And if they're more technical, this is where we talk about progressive disclosure, or ways in which you have a backdoor um, a view of information for the more technical admin or person that can understand the complexity.
Exactly.
It's a lot to balance.
It is. And, while you want that situational awareness there, you want the human to have that awareness. You don't want to overwhelm them and paralyze them either, right? So that here's everything the system's looking at on this dashboard. Good luck. But a dashboard is a good example of what you're saying. Is there, as a thought, and I know we'll probably talk about more and more of this in later topics, but what do you present to keep them aware, help them troubleshoot, help them make decisions when needed, especially in automated systems when things go wrong. But how do you present that without overwhelming them? And then when the need be, okay, now I can go downstream and figure out this might be my problem. Now let me dig in, or let me get the right people to dig into that. So there are a lot of ramifications for it.
Absolutely. So if we were to recap the concept of situation awareness around this topic, there are the three areas again are the perception of the fact that there's that situation in front of you. Anything you want to add to that?
No, I don't. But I guess the only thing I'll add, which is interesting, this is me just chatting about it, but is that you want that human perception. So that's a first tier, right? That's the first thing that has to happen. Is I'm perceiving something, in this situation. That may not always match reality. So, that is something to consider. What is the user perception of the situation versus the reality of it? And that may make you take a hard look at whatever system you've designed. Again, bring the human back in, be able to say, we're giving them enough information that their perceived reality of the situation does match what they call ground truth.
Yes. And going back to, or kind of adding to that, is that comprehension component.
Yes.
So in what you present to them, can they comprehend? And where you just talked about too much information, are you presenting the right amount of information and the right detail for them to comprehend and to sharpen that mental model, to build out and refine the mental model that they have? It'll never be complete. It'll never be fully accurate, but can you help them to comprehend at the highest level?
Yes. Yep.
And then finally, I think the most important component is the ability to project what can potentially go wrong and how to intervene. So just like that self-driving vehicle scenario, how can I foresee, am I aware of, am I present in the moment, and how can I foresee what might go wrong, and most importantly, how I intervene?
Yes. And that's dependent on the previous 2 points, right?
That's right.
Perceive, comprehend, project, and make a decision.
That's right. So as you think about those decision support systems that incorporate AI, keep in mind that you first want to understand that user's mental model, their ability to have some level of situation awareness, and what you can do as the system designer to help influence that and to help them understand how to intervene, where to intervene, and what are the outcomes of that intervention as well.
Yep. And in summary, remember systems thinking. It's not just the algorithm. It's not just the system. That human is part. I don't care what kind of AI it is. The human is part of the system.
That's right. That's right. Well, thank you so much for listening today. And as always, you can reach us at info@leangeeks.net. Thank you again, and we will see you next Tuesday at noon. Have a
Yes.
good week. Bye.